Devil May Cry is a franchise that stems from rather humble roots, and I think there's something genuinely heartwarming about how it's managed to become successful as a franchise. The original Devil May Cry was sort of an offshoot project born from a failed RE4 prototype that was almost like catching purple lightning in a jar of mayonnaise. Despite there being next to no expectations for it, the game went on to sell in droves, and from it was born one of Capcom's most successful IPs. Unfortunately, Devil May Cry 2 went through a development hell with supposedly the only finished asset of the game 7 months prior to release, at which point they brought in an entirely new director, being Dante's Stinger animation. As you can probably guess, the game didn't do well.
Kill me!
It was fucking bad. Then came DmC 3, where DmC 2 director Hideaki Itsuno decided he wasn't about to let the franchise die, so he poured his heart and soul into the Ultimate Passion project, and from it was born one of the greatest games of all time. Then came Devil May Cry 4, and despite its initially mixed reception, the game has found a healthy place amongst the fans that can only be described as one of the best unfinished games ever made. Unfortunately, due to the underwhelming reception of DmC 4, Capcom felt it was prudent to push the series in a new direction for the sake of keeping it relevant. And this led to one of the most mind-boggling pre-release disasters in the video game industry that I think I've ever witnessed. Trying to reboot an iconic franchise into something so dissonant from the original was one hell of a bold step on the part of Capcom and Ninja Theory. I mention the both of them because they're equally responsible for the conception, creation, and legacy of the reboot. It's well known by now that Hideaki Itsuno, as well as other Capcom execs, were heavily involved in the original plans for DmC, and they were quite insistent that Ninja Theory not only do their best to westernize DmC, whatever the hell that even fucking means, but also that they try and distinguish it from the originals in as many ways as possible. As to why they would choose to be so needlessly pushy during the creation of a game that they had to have known would need to be made with as much care and respect as possible is beyond me, but whatever. But let's take a step back for a moment. The original reveal trailer for DmC was not received well initially, and to say that it caused quite the stir amongst core series fans would be more than an understatement. And I'll be the first to admit that I was one of those people that fucking loathed the idea at first. I love Devil May Cry, and even though I wasn't the biggest fan of DmC 4, I didn't want the original series to just die off, which was exactly what it seemed Capcom was trying to tell us was the case when they unexpectedly revealed this reboot featuring a completely redesigned Dante in an unfamiliar setting. I already wasn't a fan of this design, although I will say I've warmed up to it over the years, but add to that the fact that I was being expected to take this as a replacement for the original Wacky Wahoo Pizza Man, whomst div I'd grown to love, and you can bet I was immediately turned off with this character, and I think it's fair to say that I wasn't the only one who felt this way. However, first impressions are overrated, and had Capcom and Ninja Theory gone about things differently, we might have gotten an interesting game out of it that would have seen a pretty decent amount of success. I'll be the first to say that I don't think this game ever had a chance of holding a candle to the originals, or at least 3, given that it was running on the Unreal Engine, which is just That's not to say that there was no way this could have worked, and I honestly think that at first they might have been onto something. This reveal trailer isn't all that bad. Don't get me wrong, it's bizarre that they would choose not to show any gameplay, especially considering the gameplay was and is what this series has mostly come to be known for, but it does have a lot going for it. These designs are pretty cool, and it seemed the artistic direction would be some sort of a blend between Western punk rock and gruesome Japanese mythology horror, two things I very much enjoy personally. It's implied that Dante was tortured, which would explain his more quiet demeanor, simultaneously establishing his character while also hinting at what was to come in regards to how he would develop. Perhaps we'd see him grow to be a more optimistic and fun-loving character by the end of his adventure, concluding his arc in a satisfying way that not only showed a decent respect to the original Dante, but also distinguished this new Dante as a well-written and likable character of his own. One could even argue that's what a rebooted protagonist would ideally be like in this scenario. Plus, there were a lot of questions we as the audience could ask about the trailer. Who the hell is supposed to be torturing Dante and why? What's causing these demons to come about? Will there be a bigger emphasis on how these demonic threats affect the people in the world? Man, so much potential. Looking back, I genuinely think they were onto something, and provided they had stuck with the original vision of the reboot, even if it didn't go quite as well as one might hope, Ninja Theory and Capcom could have been commended for putting forth a decent effort into rebooting the franchise. But that's not what happened. Okay, right off the bat, what the fuck is this second trailer? There's a reason people meme about this looking like some faux anonymous bullshit, but I guess I'll hold off on that topic for now. Also, The Order. I mean, really? I'm absolutely nitpicking, but I hate it when titles are so generic, and calling a societal separatist group The Order is about as creative as calling a settlement in the post-apocalypse Sanctuary. I've heard more creative titles from third grade Naruto fanfiction, don't ask. Alright, look, I'm not against the idea of Devil May Cry tackling the concept of an Orwellian society where the world is governed or controlled in some way by demonic influence. Hell, Devil May Cry 2 ran with a similar concept, and had it been given a proper development cycle, it might have been pretty decent. Maybe someday in a remake, who fucking knows. The problem here is that the monologue coming from this person, who I'm guessing is supposed to be Virgil, just comes off as so incredibly try-hard and silly. I'm not saying dialogue like this can't work, hell, just look at the Joker. Out of context, some of the lines in this movie are borderline cringy, but anyone who's watched the movie can tell you that when put into context, these lines hit really fucking hard. And I get that in a trailer, especially in the opening seconds, this can be difficult to achieve. But difficult doesn't mean impossible. Hear me out. What if this trailer opened with the Dante from the original trailer rambling about society being controlled by demons, all the while locked up in some kind of prison cell with crazy writings and drawings on the wall? That wouldn't make sense because he's already been established as having been tortured and not exactly liking demons, so it would simultaneously be a possible confirmation to who it was that captured him in the first place, while also giving us a look into who he is as a character. That would have been a great way to kick things off in a second trailer. Could you imagine a Dante struggling to overcome his disdain for part of his heritage, similarly to Virgil from the original series, but this time potentially with a happier ending? What an interesting flipping of the script that would have been. But as it stands, this is just some dude in a mask that nobody would have even known was Virgil rambling about how we live in a society. There's no weight to what he's saying, and the level of try-hard edge that it exudes is extremely off-putting. And then we get that scene. You're not on the list. This has to be one of the dumbest tropes in fiction because they always conclude one of two ways. Either the main character does something silly that gets them kicked out, or they do something cool that gets them in. Sometimes the results are inverted, but either way, it's bound to be either set up as comedy or cool factor. Seeing as how there's zero context as to what the fuck is even going on, and anyone who's played Devil May Cry is going to be familiar enough with Dante to know he's the coolest motherfucker alive, the result can easily be predicted within a matter of frames, so any potential surprise is already gone. Dante then uppercuts the bouncer, which, 1, is needlessly hostile, and 2, just looks pathetic. The last time I saw Dante pulling off an uppercut was from a 60 frames per second distorted real impact, and this is the best you've got to offer? Already this isn't looking good. Could you imagine how simultaneously hilarious and badass it would have been if Dante real impacted this dude into fucking orbit? That would have been fucking amazing. The clipboard and Sharpie the bouncer was holding somehow got launched from this uppercut, and both items fall perfectly into Dante's hands, which is a Naked Gun inspired gag that I'll always get a kick out of seeing. So, okay, dumb as hell scene, but maybe the punchline will be more effective.
I am now.
You know, this trailer just continues to subvert my expectations. We then get some shots of Lilith's nightclub, effectively establishing that Ninja Theory has abandoned the more brooding and emo punk aesthetic of the original trailer in favor of those epic wubba lubba dub dubs. And then we get this magnificent piece of writing.
My name, by the way, is Dante. But you can call me Dante the Demon Killer. Has a nice ring to it, don't you think?
This series is gonna die a miserable death, isn't it? I'd like to tell you that this horrendous moment was followed up on with some exciting gameplay, but honestly, the trailer is just so poorly edited that I can barely focus on anything that's happening, to the point that I think I'm starting to get a fucking migraine just from editing this video. Lilith's nightclub. Fuck it. This nightclub is notorious because of just how overwhelming it can be on any remotely functional pair of eyes, and it's clear that prior to this game's release, Ninja Theory and their marketing team hadn't quite gotten the memo. We then get one more line from the man in the mask saying, "Face your demons." And honestly, if it wasn't for the whack-ass music drowning out what he says, this line would have actually been pretty good. It's not about to save this failed abortion of a trailer, but hey, it's neat. And hey, remember what I said about how cool it would be to flip the script and have Dante showing disdain for his demonic heritage? That line about facing demons would have fit perfectly in that context. We then get a clip of Dante's devil trigger and yeah, it's pretty stupid. The trailer is then capped off with another fucking brilliant example of this game's Shakespearean dialogue. I think the clip does a more than good enough job at speaking for itself, but fuck it, I'm here to tear into this game, and goddammit I'm gonna do just that. The first little bit referencing Sparta is actually a perfect fit for a second trailer because it's something that any core series fan will recognize as a very significant part of the lore. But given the mess of shit that it's been placed amidst here, the desired effect had no chance in hell of being a reality. Of course, it doesn't help that this reference to Sparta was immediately followed by this line about
Me, a god, versus you, a piece of shit.
There's only so many ways I can creatively convey that I've heard better writing from a primary school youth than their anime fanfic, so I'm gonna be more straight to the point from here on out and just tell you that this dialogue is fucking terrible. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't even think the trailer directly references that this character is supposed to be Mundus. And he sure as hell doesn't resemble the original Mundus in any way, so when put into context, I have no fucking idea what the intended effect with introducing him like this was meant to be. This whole trailer just comes off as poorly thought out and even more quickly pasted together for the sake of having something at a showcase. Not only that, but it backpedals completely on the tone and aesthetic established by the prior trailer, so anyone trying to keep track of this at the time would have been utterly confused as to what the hell was even going on with this game. And believe me, we were. This trailer had more or less solidified the position taken by the majority that this Devil May Cry game was beyond inferior to anything the original series had put forward. Except maybe DmC 2. Maybe. The DmC reboot was off to a rocky start, but this trailer made things far worse than they ever needed to be. Oh, but the shitstorm doesn't stop there. Let's talk real quick about what was going on outside the trailers. More specifically, let's talk about this gentleman, Tameem Antoniadis. If I mispronounce that, I sincerely apologize. Tameem was the creative director and lead writer for DmC, so he was often the subject of interviews regarding the game prior to its release. Needless to say, this reboot was quite the hot topic in the world of gaming. So it was on this man's shoulders to not only stand by his creative direction, but to ensure fans that what the team had in mind for Devil May Cry would be a good change of pace for the series. Unfortunately, Tameem did just about the exact opposite. I will say that I think Tameem is a more than capable writer, or at least I've heard that he's gotten better. I haven't played Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice yet, though I intend to, but I have heard nothing but glowing praise for that game's writing, so I can only imagine that at the very least he's come a long way. However, that doesn't change the fact that he handled the initial reception of DmC with the maturity and mental fortitude of a psychopathic preteen who had just got grounded from skateboarding. Let's play a little game I like to call What Not to Say to Your Audience Before Your Product Even Comes Out. The title's a placeholder. Hey Tameem, how do you feel about the response to Devil May Cry? I don't care. The people who are skeptical want to like it. Our female characters aren't prostitutes with guns. And finally, probably my favorite thing any game developer has ever said. The essence of Devil May Cry is all about cool. It's about Dante being cool and making you feel cool when you're playing it. And so the combat and the style system and everything is integral to that. But, you know, what was cool 12 years ago, I think that was when the first game came out, isn't cool anymore. If Dante, dressed as he was, walked into any bar outside of Tokyo, he'd get laughed out. What Devil May Cry did when it launched was it brought everything that was great about action cinema, like the fashion, music. It was like a cultural melting pot. And I feel like now, for Devil May Cry to have that same impact, it needs to draw on new things. New music, new ways of cinematography, new fashion. Does the phrase tone deaf mean anything to you? Needless to say, the marketing for DmC was pretty terrible, and it saw little in the ways of improvement leading up to release. You might be wondering if I'm going to be talking about the vanilla or the definitive edition, and the answer is no. I'm here to talk about the absolute abominations that are Ninja Theory's characters and story. If you want a more in-depth breakdown of the gameplay, go check out Luce Belmont's critique whenever it comes out. He does a great job of dissecting the gameplay and why it's actually really fucking terrible. It's funny too because when we both got back into this game and we were discussing it, he was pretty quick to defend it when I said the gameplay sucked. Oh, how quickly those defenses fell flat on their asses with even a basic critical examination. That's not a dig at Luce either. He found way more wrong with the gameplay than I ever did, and I found plenty that was wrong. Now, I'm not about to pretend that DmC as a franchise has always been consistent, especially between the first 4 games, but the original Dante had established himself as one of the most beloved protagonists in the medium at this point, so this new Dante had a lot to live up to. Some would say it's unfair of me to expect this new product from a new team to live up to the legacy of the originals, but that very argument undermines the very point of this reboot's existence and basically admits defeat at the hands of the originals, including Devil May Cry 2. So you really want to go down that road? The original Devil May Cry quite literally invented this subgenre of action games. Tameem has referenced Devil May Cry's 1 and 3 as inspirations behind many of the directions that this game took. This game very deliberately borrows elements from the prior entries, so yes, I will absolutely be comparing it to the originals when I feel it's necessary. Oh, and because I know somebody is going to say it, no, this game would not immediately be better if it wasn't titled Devil May Cry. If anything, the story and characters would make even less sense than they already do. Furthermore, it still shares DMC's subgenre and various stylistic elements, so no matter what you want to call it, this game had predecessors to look back on and draw from, including non-DMC games like Bayonetta, No More Heroes, God Hand, and even Lollipop Chainsaw. And those games were all very good. Well, mostly. If a game fails to live up to the objective standards established by its predecessors, then it's not the fault of mine that I put the expectation on it to be of similar quality. What the hell is the point of making a game if you're not going to try and make it good? Standards exist for a reason. If you think that's ridiculous, then frankly, I have no idea what to tell you. Oh, and one more thing, because this is also going to be said by somebody who plays Devil May Cry for the story. I do. I love the characters and I want to see them grow. Devil May Cry 1's story was okay. 3's was outstanding, and 5's was very good. 2 and 4 were shit, but had some likable characters. But even if every single one of them was absolute dog shit with its writing, that is irrelevant to this game's narrative issues. Saying this other thing sucks doesn't change the fact that this thing still sucks. If anything, you think the reboot would have a good idea of what not to do, and the writers would have thought to learn from the shortcomings of the other game's stories. Hell, you'd think, given just how much this game borrows from the originals, that it could at least do its best to borrow the things that were good and emulate what made them good, but we couldn't even get that. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyways, let's move on to the story. I'm not going to go through it scene by scene, but I'd like to talk about the opening and just how much it contradicts the rest of the game, as well as any other plot holes that may occur along the way. We open with a wide shot of the city of Limbo, admittedly an odd name for the city, but this franchise is no stranger to the occasional odd name or two. I mean, hell, the single most important locations in the series are Malay Island and Redgrave City. There's a weirdly shaped building quite prevalent in this very shot, so that's fine. I actually kinda like this shot because it establishes that there's a bit of weirdness to this world. I mean, seriously, who the fuck makes buildings like this? We then cut to an office inside the building where a man is talking on the phone. Also in the room is a portal and a woman. Both are mere decorations, and both are very ugly. The man speaks very threateningly towards the person on the phone with him, outright telling him that the collapse of the economy will be on his hands if he doesn't obey. What the fuck? Is the economy on the verge of collapse, or is this something the businessman can just make happen overnight? If it's the latter, then how the fuck are you gonna do that and pin it all on the other person? What's the plan here? Why should I even give a shit when I don't know a thing about this world? In any case, the man on the phone obeys, and it's revealed just before the phone call ends that our discount Lex Luthor was speaking to none other than the president. The president of another company? President of this man's company? Joe? Who fucking knows? The businessman turns to this lovely lady and boasts about how he just made another $1 trillion and has the world controlled through debt. Okay then. I have no idea how this world's government or economies work, so nothing this dude is saying carries any weight. It's just generic bad guy bullshit. Remember how awesome it was when Mr. House went into depth about how he controlled the various families of New Vegas and its economy, and even having the NCR and Caesar's Legion basically under his thumb?
To enforce, one must have force, a position of strength. Years ago, when I detected NCR scouts roaming the Mojave, I could tell from their uniforms that these were no mere tribesmen. I knew it was only a matter of time before an army appeared to take control of the dam, and I knew my Securitrons wouldn't be enough to oppose them. And so I recruited the 3 families. Vegas belongs to me because I mustered enough strength to bring the NCR to the bargaining table. Indeed it was, and still is, but not without taking significant casualties. Would Kimball and Oliver have traded the lives of hundreds of soldiers for absolute control of Hoover Dam? Oh, yes. They weren't afraid of me. They were afraid of Caesar, that attacking me would leave them vulnerable to a Legion offensive. And so they negotiated. Not out of the kindness of their hearts, as they try to make it seem, because the calculus of power left no other choice. NCR forces were permitted to occupy Hoover Dam and establish a military base at McCarran Airport. Well, it used to be one. They recognized my sovereignty over the Vegas Strip and agreed to supply electricity and water once their engineers repaired the dam. Written into the treaty were provisions that the NCR do nothing to prevent its soldiers and civilians from visiting the Strip. That's how I harnessed the NCR to my endeavor. Their occupation has been the engine of my growing economy. The salient issue is that they will go to war with me if given the chance. There's just one reason why the NCR hasn't contrived some outrage to justify invading the Strip. Caesar's Legion. The final battle between those two armies is fast approaching. I can't afford to let either side win on their terms.
Yes, by close of trading Friday. No, you can't have more time. You know the terms, you know the consequences. No, this is not a veiled threat. This is a direct one. Should you fail to comply, the collapse of the economy will be on your head. I will make sure that you are stripped of power, shamed, and hated. Is that clear enough for you? Well, Friday it is then. You have a good night, Mr. President.
This ain't it, Chief. He then gets a sudden cold chill, I guess, and remembers that Dante, the son of Sparta, is still out there. Apparently, even though this man controls the world, he cannot find this one guy. This Dante must be quite the stealth operative. Sounds like a real badass. Maybe in this game, the Devil May Cry business is a clandestine black market of devil hunters or some crazy shit. That would be pretty sexy. We then get some more Thomas Vinterberg tier dialogue to cap off this scene where this guy says that he plans to kill Dante in quite the grotesque manner, oh my god. So, I guess this Dante must have really done something to piss him off, huh? I mean, this isn't just a goal, like this dude is really clamoring to kill Dante and watch him suffer. These two must have some serious beef. So you may have noticed that I didn't refer to this character as Mundus, and that's because neither the trailer I referenced earlier, nor this very cutscene have bothered to do this either. So they start off by introducing the main bad guy, but they can't be bothered to actually introduce him by his fucking name? What the fuck? And how does Mundus know of Dante and not Virgil? Jumping ahead, we know that Mundus, along with his demonic attack force, attacked the Sparta Manor while Dante and Virgil lived there as kids. And there's even a point where we hear Mundus's men in the memories saying cover the exits. So, how the fuck did Sparta escape with his sons? Some kind of escape hatch or something? Why is that never shown or mentioned? How did Mundus, the most powerful demon in the world, look straight at this Nephilim child from across the room and not manage to kill him? Dante says he saw Mundus's face, so we know that they were in the same room, and since Virgil was with Sparta and Dante during this, we know that he too would have been there. Mundus knows what Nephilim are capable of. What the fuck is he doing not killing Dante and Virgil? It's not like Sparta or Eva could even fight him off. The game makes that expressly clear. How does he not know that Virgil is a Nephilim, let alone who Virgil even is? Also, Dante and Virgil are a few years old at this point, so why did it take Mundus so long to hear about only Dante and not Virgil? Mundus's understandings of what threatened his reign do not make any fucking sense. There's also this shot of Dante holding his dead mother as a kid, but there's no way it could have happened because we know that Sparta took him and Virgil from there, separated them, and wiped their memories, meaning there's no way Dante went back to see her. Plus, wouldn't Mundus's men have been left to guard that place for a while? I mean, really? Demons even showed up when Dante visits the place over a decade later. Dante also says that he'll never forget what Mundus did to his mother, despite literally having forgotten for the majority of his life. Also, how does Sparta even get captured if he managed to escape with Dante and Virgil? Why would he not have fucked off somewhere? Hell, he's the only one that even knows Mundus is after him, and he failed. How the fuck does that even work? Come to think of it, how does Sparta even wipe their memories? Like, does he have this power to just delete people's memories at will? If that's the case, why not use this on Mundus and the other demons so they forget the stories of Nephilim and about Sparta? Hey Doctor Strange, why the fuck didn't you delete Thanos' memory? Sparta isn't made out to be a demonic badass in this game, so what's the deal? What even are his powers if he has any? Was the memory wipe a ritual? A drug? If either is to be believed, there's still the question of how the hell he escaped Mundus at the Sparta Manor, so either of those shouldn't even be possible. How did Sparta even manage to conceal himself for long enough to separate Dante and Virgil safely, only to still be caught at some point later? Mundus literally has demons in every corner of society watching over the entire world, and is able to spot Dante just by Dante smacking someone's soda away on a random street. So how could anyone possibly hope to hide from Mundus in a world like this? Oh, and wouldn't you know it, that leads us straight into the next plot hole. So you're telling me the single most powerful character in this universe, a living global superpower with actual superpowers, and minions quite literally everywhere, cannot find Dante, a single guy who's quite literally a mile down the road from Lilith's nightclub? Dante had no memory of Mundus, so it's not like he would be on guard, and there had to be some sort of tabs kept on him when he was a kid. How the fuck did they struggle for so many years to find this guy? Later on in the game, they find him just because he smacked a dude's slurm away. You're telling me it was that easy after like 20 years? What the fuck? This plot should not be happening because nothing about it follows any reasonable cause and effect. It's just scene after scene of shit with nothing but familiar faces and aesthetics tying them together. Jumping ahead, it appears that Mundus's forces have finally found Dante. So naturally, Mundus sends the weakest sets of demons possible, and this cunt face, to finish the job that he's spent years trying to accomplish. In past games, there was never a need to introduce strong demons right off the bat, which benefited the pacing and structuring of difficulty. Malay Island was more dangerous upon entering the demonic realm later in the game. Via Demarley was in the middle of an invasion of sorts, so it made sense for things to progressively get more dire. The Timony Gru didn't connect to the demon world until the ritual was completed by Arkham. Sanctus and Agnes didn't open the Hellgates until later on in the game, and in Devil May Cry 5's case, the deeper in the Qliphoth they got, the more dangerous things would get. In DmC, however, Dante should be Mundus's #1 priority, as he believes Dante is the only thing that can kill him, since Dante's a Nephilim, a hybrid of angel and demon. And you know what? Let's talk about the Nephilim. Why does Virgil talk about the Nephilim as if him and Dante are the first of their kind, but Phineas describes them as the third race that existed long before? Maybe Virgil just didn't know? Why would you structure the exposition to mislead the audience only to be like, oh no, actually, a couple of chapters afterwards with no real payoff or intended effect? How did Virgil even learn about the Nephilim to begin with, and what was the point of him giving us completely misinformative exposition? Why in this game's canon can a Demon King only be killed by Nephilim? Would a power level exceeding Mundus's not simply be enough? Why does the title Demon King grant this pseudo-invincibility? If it's just a title, how does one become a Demon King, and at what point does this pseudo-invincibility become a thing? If it's genetic, then what are the circumstances leading to one's birth that determines whether or not they're a Demon King or just a regular demon? Why are Nephilim the only beings capable of killing them? Also, if Sparta and Mundus are brothers, how come Sparta's not a Demon King, and how come Mundus didn't need a Nephilim to kill him? Can someone please explain what being a Nephilim even means aside from being a descent of angels and demons? Dante and Virgil look like regular-ass humans, and Dante wields demonic and angel weapons. Is the ability to wield both of them exclusive to Nephilim? If that's the case, why aren't there also Nephilim weapons? What happens when a human or demon tries to wield an angel weapon? Could a team of angel and demon not kill a Demon King? What even are the angel and demon races aside from humans with horns and wings? And I guess tails, probably. Why do Nephilim just look like regular-ass humans? Why do Nephilim have a devil trigger but not an angel mode or a super Nephilim transformation? Man, there sure is a lot of holes in this rather critical plot point. If you're gonna set up that specific things must happen in order for the plot to proceed, especially the fucking end goal for the protagonist, I'd like at some point to be able to understand how those things function to a basic extent. In the original series, Mundus was hard to kill because he was an all-powerful demonic god. He lost to Sparta, he lost to Dante, because both exceeded him in power. He wasn't inexplicably invincible to all but a specific race for no apparent reason. Also, this Mundus wiped out the original Nephilim, an entire race that I'm assuming must have had some warriors amongst them, but these two idiots can kill him? Between all this crap, Mundus' inability to find Dante who lives just down the road from him, and Mundus somehow just not knowing about Virgil's existence, I'm starting to think the only unique power that these sons of Sparta possess is fucking plot armor. But let's go back to the first mission for a moment. Dante stumbles across this girl named Kat. However, Dante is in the realm of Limbo while she remains in the human world. And oh my god, where do I even begin with this? Okay, so how did Kat know to even come here? I'm assuming Virgil sent her, but why would he have waited so long to do so? Virgil had to have known that Mundus was looking for Dante, so why would he not have contacted Dante as quickly as possible? He had to have known it was only a matter of time until Dante was found. Hell, why didn't Virgil himself come here to begin with? We learned by the end that he's a capable fighter, nearly being at Dante's level, so what the fuck is he doing not helping Dante himself? Is it because he wants to keep his existence hidden from Mundus? Why does that matter, and how would he even know that Mundus doesn't know of his existence? Mundus is already gunning for Virgil's order, so how does knowing that their leader is a Nephilim even change anything anyways? Priority targets, I guess? But Mundus controls the entirety of the world, so it's not like he has to do much to even focus on Virgil anyways. So Kat is talking in the human world to Dante in Limbo. This means that from everyone else's perspective, she's just talking to invisible people in a public area. How on earth is someone not trying to walk her to a bench or call the cops to try and take her home? She is not at all inconspicuous, and she has no means to defend herself. What the fuck is she doing? Also, she throws a Molotov at this cunt face because I guess it makes him vulnerable now, because reasons. Also, she just threw a goddamn Molotov in the human world. Again, why has no one called the police on this fucking bitch? We also know that law enforcement is under Mundus's thumb, so this would mean certain doom for the Order. But I guess that can't happen because it'd be inconvenient to the plot. No, but Loveless, these people are oblivious because they drink the slurm from Futurama. Yes, because apparently drinking that shit just turns you into a completely mindless husk, incapable of actually perceiving anything. Man, I guess we're lucky Dante never thought to try that shit. He definitely doesn't seem like the kind of person who would drink soda. Oh, never mind. It just doesn't affect Nephilim. Man, isn't that just convenient? Why doesn't it affect Nephilim? Like I said, their main power is plot armor. Also, Kat says that if Dante shoots her, she dies. Yet for some reason, when Kat is being hunted and attacked later on, neither Dante nor Virgil think to help her by killing the people attacking her. Oh, but Loveless, you see, only she can interact with them across dimensions because she's a psychic medium. Then how in the name of God is this Molotov still functional in Limbo after Kat has released her grip on it? How in the name of the funny purple clown man is it that Dante can't kill the people physically interacting with her while she is projecting herself? I assumed at first that if Kat was physically interacting with things in the real world that they'd carry over into the world of Limbo so long as she herself was projecting. At least that seems to be how it works, given her ability to use a damn Molotov. So, why all of a sudden does she need to use spray symbols on these objects so Dante can interact with them? And why is Dante unable to interact with the people beating the shit out of Kat? Also, the Ferris wheel. It gets destroyed in the opening mission, and it's shown to be also doing this in the human world. So, why is nothing else translating to the human world? Also, why doesn't Kat just spray some of that squirrel cum on Ebony and Ivory, or even just Dante so that he can protect her? Why are Ebony and Ivory even in Limbo to begin with? It's almost as if this game is cherry-picking how things work, rather than having a consistent logical through line. The writers quite literally only want the mechanics to work however is most convenient to the scene. Wow. This is so bad. Okay, let's take a step back here and talk specifically about the characters. Of course, we're gonna start with Dante. This dude is a fucking asshole. I cannot fathom a legitimate reason to get behind him as a hero. Some of you might hear that and think, well, he's saving the world, so by default you should be behind him. But there are half a dozen problems with that claim alone. Firstly, what a fucking shallow reason to get behind a character. Right, because I'm just gonna get behind and love every character that isn't a complete and total fucking psychopath. It's like people who say that we need to acknowledge the Flash from the DCEU as a true hero because he hit the YouTube rewind button, while the planet was exploding. I cannot fathom a more basic view on what being a hero means when it comes to writing characters. This guy doesn't even care about saving the world. That isn't a bad starting place for his characterization, but I'm not about to take someone's side or like them as a person because they happen to be the hero by a relative and very minimal standard. I would argue he still doesn't give a shit about the world by the end. He just wants to bang Kat. Like, literally, the world is on fire and swarming with demons, and he's walking off to wherever with his hand on her ass. Wow. To me, man, you have done such a great job at putting a stop to the sexualization of women in Devil May Cry. So brave, much bold. And as far as winning me over with charisma goes, you can just forget about it. Having a character be charismatic and well-performed is a great way of turning an unlikable piece of shit into a beloved character. Handsome Jack, Travis Touchdown, Dr. House, the Joker, Wesker, Frieza, the Major, Patrick Bateman, and like I said at the start of the video, had they developed Dante properly into a more well-meaning and charismatic dude, his characterization could have worked. As it stands, he's just an obnoxious douchebag that talks smack in an attempt to sound cool. However, unlike the original Dante, this guy just seems to get a kick out of being an asshole. Dante was a great example of a character who acts with bravado and wit because nothing he ever said came off as mean-spirited, and the vast majority of his one-liners were genuinely clever retorts to whatever demon or character happened to be in his way. There was a certain simplicity to the character that made him enjoyable for just about anyone. Like seriously, what is the single most genuinely aggressive thing the original Dante ever said to another character? I'm not saying I don't want Dante to ever get pissed off, I'm saying that the way Dante conducts himself is what makes him so lovable as a protagonist. And it's because of this that it's so easy to get behind him as the hero of the story. Then we have this Dante, a potty-mouthed doofus who, when told things could get rough, looks at the cute girl and says, "I like it rough. Sure am glad we're done with those prostitutes with guns." It's much more appropriate to outright have your own protagonist objectifying the completely useless female characters without anyone else reprimanding him. Or how about the time Dante, when squaring off with a new enemy type, drops this masterclass in smack talk?
Who invited you, fat ass?
Would it be douchey of me to say that these writers clearly have no idea what being cool actually means? Even when Dante's not just being a prick with his one-liners, nothing about what he says comes off as clever or witty. He's just a dumbass trying really hard to sound cool the instant an opportunity presents itself. Who the fuck wants to hang out with a guy like that? But for now, we have a protagonist that does the absolute bare minimum when it comes to their good deeds, only ever even doing so because he's instructed to and he wants to get laid. And he's got about as much personality as a pissed off infant, meaning that there's basically no reason to get behind him without just making some shit up for yourself, or just settling on, well, he happens to be saving the world, so that's good enough for me. The craziest part of all of this, Dante's not even the worst character. Oh no, not by a country fucking mile. Meet plot divide, Kat. Kat is a girl that was orphaned as a child for unknown reasons, no really that's what the wiki actually says, and was given drugs by her abusive demonic adoptive father, who she escaped by going into limbo, where she met Virgil, who took her under his wing. How she got to limbo, why Virgil was even there to begin with, why her father decided to reveal himself to her as a demon, what her father's motivations for doing anything were, why he didn't just follow her into limbo, how Virgil happened to end up near her within limbo, all of this is completely unknown. I'm sure somebody is going to chime in the comments saying, actually the books say, and let me just stop you right there, because I don't care. The books exist outside the medium that this game is a part of, and they are not referenced in this game, because they came afterwards. If the books do a great job at telling the story without these issues, good for the books. That doesn't change the fact that the issues are still present within the game. So, Kat is devout to Virgil's cause because he saved her life. The backstory is about as thin as Kat, but hey, it's something. For the first several hours, Kat is basically just helping Dante and Virgil do things. She makes portals for Dante, gives some exposition dumps every now and then, etc. Eventually, we get to the mission where Virgil decides it would be best to leave Kat at the mercy of Mundus' SWAT team. We'll talk about Virgil later, but can I just say how weird it is that Kat even survived this? This SWAT team is shown to just kill people on sight, and Kat will be killed if you don't intervene. But in the cutscene, she gets shot once in the shoulder, gets the shit kicked out of her, and the next time we see her, she's fine. Alrighty then. After this, Kat becomes a damsel in distress, and you know what? It's a trope I actually don't have that much disdain for, even though a lot of other people seem to. I think characters needing rescuing is fine. It's a good way of getting the characters and the audience invested when they have a reason to care, so I don't really care if it happens to be a female character that's in need of helping, as long as it's done well. The problem here is that, oh man, who the fuck cares about Kat, like seriously? Now alright, anyone can find a reason to care about a character. Some people need as little as to know a name before they'll start to show compassion towards character, and you know what, that's fine. The objective issue here, however, is that Ninja Theory has done very little up to this point to characterize her, despite her having a very chunky amount of screen time, so we're just expected to feel sorry for her because she's cute and has a sad-ish backstory? Boo fucking who. Any writer can do this. Why should I care about this character who at this point has been, at best, a convenience for a couple of missions? It's not as if I even know that much about her, so what is there for me to relate to, and thus grow to sympathize with? This is a prime example of how not to do the damsel in distress, because the only reasons anyone has to care for her are entirely superficial. What a fucking joke. Prostitutes with guns, my dick. The worst part of this whole thing, Kat is the best female character in this game. Eva is said to be a loving mother, and then she gets killed because she birthed Nephilim. The succubus is a cranky old cunt, and we kill her because she makes slurm. And Lilith is, as Dante describes, a demon bitch that gets preggers from Mundus and gets killed for basically no reason, other than to set up the fact that Virgil is, well, evil, I guess. There you go. I just described every other female in the game. What a colossal step up from those prostitutes with guns these are. God, imagine having the audacity to say that stupid shit after having written this stupid shit. Gone are the days of badass babes with agency and even their own character arcs. Literal objects are the future of progressive writing in games. Oh, and going back to Mundus, apparently he's Sparta's brother, making him the uncle of Dante and Virgil? Once again, how did he not know about Virgil? Why is the fact that they are blood related not explored at all? Boy howdy, I really miss when Devil May Cry actually cared about their characters and exploring them in meaningful ways. Hey, remember when family was something that actually kind of mattered in Devil May Cry? Yeah, me too. Let's see, who else is there? Well, there's Phineas, who acts as an exposition dump for Dante because they couldn't think of anything better to do with his character, or any better way to relay this critical information to Dante. Seriously, how the fuck does Phineas have such explicit and private knowledge of Mundus? He's never implied to be a spy or an omniscient observer or anything. He just knows things, tells Dante, and fucks off. Why even go through the trouble of making a whole character and having them fully voiced for this if you're not even going to thoroughly flesh out their role in the story? And the worst part of it all is that Dante doesn't even remember what might be the most crucial thing that Phineas even tells him. You know, the thing about who will take Mundus' place. This goes completely over Dante's stupid ugly face, the fucking nematode. Also, what are Phineas's powers exactly? He says some shit about how paths open up when you look through new whatevers, but mechanically there's no explanation. He just says some vague bullshit and is suddenly bending reality, or maybe he's revealing invisible shit. I don't fucking know. This is what happens when you don't explain shit in your story. You give guys like me who spend more than 5 seconds thinking about things a fucking migraine. Is there anyone else? Oh god, please don't tell me. Alright, let's talk about this fucking troglodyte. Virgil in DmC Devil May Cry is one of the worst video game characters I have ever seen. It blows my mind how a character could be so unbelievably fucking stupid as Virgil in DmC Devil May Cry. Just thinking about this dogshit piece of fiction gets my blood pressure in a goddamn skyrocket. Loveless, calm down, alright? What is it about DmC Virgil that's so terrible? Yes! I honestly do not know where to begin. Alright, let's see. He wore a fedora, but then they patched that out in Definitive Edition. Talk about putting your best foot forward. Priorities. Am I right? He's introduced as this sort of mastermind behind this resistance and takes Dante to their old home where he straight up tells Dante misinformative exposition about them being the first Nephilim. It's established that he saved Kat from her troubled youth and gave her something to live for, but their relationship is never even explored. Well, okay, there was that one time in the finale where he was like, "Silence, wench!" You know, I really love how strong and capable the women of this game are. Oh, and you also have that one mission from the DLC where he talked with Kat, ? But We'll get to that shortly. He's set up as this hacker man type of character, but other than seeing him vaguely typing away on a keyboard a couple of times, I don't actually know what he does with computers. Like, the only time anything he does on a computer is ever put into any kind of detail or context is when he's trying to save all of their files from the Order off of a drive so that Mundus's men don't get to it. Which is kind of like one of the most basic things you could ever do with a computer, but, you know, whatever. It's even funnier because he's like, oh, the quantum entanglement algorithm. I'm just like, dude, you're deleting files and copying them to a USB. Like, it's really not that complicated. But yeah, Virgil is the geeky boy who can't defend himself. I guess Yamato is just a souvenir rather than an actual weapon. I mean, geez, could you imagine how handy it would be to be able to, I don't know, create portals, summon energy swords, or even kill demons with the Yamato? Man, that would have saved their asses so many times. Plus, we wouldn't have to worry about protecting Virgil this one time. Oh my god, could you imagine teaming up alongside Virgil to fight demons? What an interesting way to explore their rivalry and brotherhood. But you know what, fine, I guess we can't have it this time because Virgil's super weak. Oh, wait a minute! So yeah, we get to Mundus, and as it turns out, Virgil can actually wield the Yamato. Man, would that have been handy earlier? He even has summoned swords. Man, those would have come in handy earlier. I'd say he helps us fight Mundus, but the only thing he really does is save Dante one time. You know what? Let's make a mental note of that, actually. Virgil saves Dante's life, preventing Mundus from... Anyways, Dante and Virgil beat Mundus and... oh my god. Okay, we'll get back to Virgil in a second. Do these bozos not realize the absolute calamity they have caused? They just destroyed the barrier between the human and the demon worlds. Yeah, so, remember in the original Devil May Cry, when that was about the exact opposite of what people wanted to happen? Because it's obvious that letting every demon in existence loose upon humanity is a terrible and apocalyptic idea. Yeah, well, you know what? DmC is just too cool for that. So fuck it. Let's just bring about the end of the world because Dante wants to get laid, I guess. The sheeple have awoken and realized that we do, in fact, live in a society. But don't worry, we won't for much longer. I sure hope it was fucking worth it. Like, actually look in the background of where Dante and Virgil are standing. Look out in the distance. The world is fucked. With a capital fucked. This is just that scene from SpongeBob where the city's a fucking inferno with people screaming for their lives, and the protagonists are patting themselves on the back in the middle of it all saying, "We saved the day!" Except this time, it's not being ironic. You know, maybe Sons of Liberty had a fucking point. Maybe we should just stop and close our eyes. Holy shit. But alright, sorry, I had to get that off my chest. Let's get back to this fucking clown. The path is clear for us to rule. So yeah, Virgil wants to rule the world, I guess. Quick question. How? No, like seriously, what is Virgil gonna do? What does he have in mind for controlling a planet that now has both human civilization and a demonic apocalypse? Also, you mean to tell me that he didn't even bring this up to anyone else, especially the one person he intended to rule alongside? What the fuck is wrong with this guy? So alright, Dante and Kat are understandably a little caught off guard by this. So Virgil tries to tell them, oh no, I'm gonna rule peacefully, which, I mean, that doesn't actually sound that bad. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's completely incapable of doing this, but, I mean, he's not Mundus. So naturally, instead of explaining his plan to rule peacefully with his brother to his brother, he then decides, fuck it, bro, you don't want to do it, fuck him. How fucking stupid are you? Did that fucking memory wipe from Sparta cause him to have some serious brain damage? Because what the fuck? So yeah, despite being established as a total fucking pussy earlier, Virgil is now on Dante's level. Also, he has a doppelganger. I can't. What the fuck, man? Hey, you know what would have been really fucking useful earlier in the fight with Mundus? How about a second Virgil? Oh, what's that? Mundus grabbed you and Dante can't reach you? Oh, gee, if only you had someone else to fucking help you, you fucking idiot! So yeah, Dante kicks his ass and, you know, I'm just gonna let this speak for itself. This game is a work of fucking art. So, defeated, Virgil decides he's gonna leave, and, are you shitting me? This dude can make portals? Man, wouldn't that have been useful earlier? I mean, it's not like we had to ascend Mundus' entire fucking building fighting his whole fucking army or anything. Jesus Christ! You know what's even crazier? You wanna know what's fucking crazier? This isn't even the worst shit. I am not joking. We then have the DLC, Virgil's Downfall. Where the fuck does this take place? I don't even know. But now, Virgil is killing imaginary versions of Dante, Kat, and his mother Eva because he hates Dante, and apparently he thinks everyone likes Dante more than him. Fucking character work. So instead of being upset that his plan to peacefully rule society and perhaps make the world a better place has been ruined by his dumbass brother and this cardboard hoe in a hood, what's really got Virgil's balls in a vice is the fact that he has an inferiority complex to Dante. Oh my fucking god. And how do we round out this new direction for his character? I'll tell you fucking how. We have him kill an imaginary version of himself, wake up in the graveyard outside the Spartan Manor, have a shit ton of demons appear out of nowhere for some fucking reason so they can follow him to who fucking knows where. Fuck this character! Actually, you know what? No. I am not about to just gloss over Virgil's downfall like it isn't one of, if not the worst pieces of media I have ever had the displeasure of being forced down my throat like a watermelon coated in sanding paper. This DLC is fucking terrible. Who wrote this? And holy shit, would you look at these animated cutscenes. Shoestring budget doesn't even begin to describe this sink fetus of a production. And the voice acting, oh my fucking god. I thought it was bad in the base game, but this shit makes New Frontier look like dead money. The fucking jackoffs. And oh my god, even in the DLC where Kat isn't present, they still find ways to make her a plot device. So Virgil's evil self or whatever is like, hey, what would you change about the past if given the chance? And that's when we cut to an imaginary cat being chased by a big monster, where Virgil tries to help her at first, even though he supposedly already hates her. Okay, Virgil finally catches up with her, and the monster just runs away, because reasons. Virgil goes over to Kat asking if she's alright, but then she starts shit-talking him. Then he argues, and it's so stupid. Virgil's like, I had to. And Kat's like, you used me, Virgil. By the way, Dante's more of a man than you, lol. And Virgil's just moping like, oh man. And that's when imaginary Kat turns into the Wendigo. So Virgil stabs her, and apparently this is when Thanos did the snap, because suddenly Kat fades to dust. Honest to God, I don't even have the ability to translate just how fucking stupid this is. Oh, and get this shit. When Virgil goes back to talk to his evil self in front of his black heart, one of the 3 wounds disappears. I just can't. This is so stupid. Virgil goes after imaginary Dante next, who just shit-talks Virgil, and it's this sort of chase sequence with some of the most unintentionally funny shit I think I've ever seen in my life. Oh, and towards the end, Virgil's like, oh, okay, you want to fight? Let's go. And you think to yourself, oh, hey, maybe we'll get a Dante boss fight. That'll be a cool inversion of the base game's final mission. No, Virgil kicks him, stabs him, and fucks off. Oh, and get this, so evil Virgil's like, your mama loved him so much more than you, and like, she liked all these things about him, but she don't like shit about you. But it doesn't make any fucking sense because their mom died when they were kids, so she had no idea what they were like beyond being rambunctious little rugrats. And I can say this with certainty because literally all we see of them as kids is them playing around and doing exactly what you would expect children to do. Those character traits were not presented until basically after the base game's story had ended. And before this DLC, there was no reference to Eva loving Dante more than Virgil, or him potentially feeling inferior because of it. So, no. This shit doesn't make a goddamn lick of sense, and it's not supported by the very same text that it exists within. So Virgil goes after an imagination of his mom, kills another shittily designed enemy that's not a boss because lol budget, and he confronts Eva, who looks, I mean, wow. These are actually the worst hair physics I think I've ever seen in a video game. Even broken-ass WWE 2K20 looks marginally better. Jesus Christ, Ninja Theory. Virgil's like, hey, I killed my imaginary bro, and imaginary Eva's upset. Eva's like, after everything we taught you, implying she actually gave Virgil plenty of guidance and care, you know, completely contradicting what he said earlier. But Virgil just says, everything you taught me was wrong, which makes no sense to me because I don't even know what exactly it is that they're referring to that he was supposedly taught, but whatever. Virgil says all that she gave him was power, which is all he wants anyways, so why is he upset with her? And just when you thought this scene could not get any more stupid, we get this.
Where's your heart?
I no longer have one, Mother.
How the fuck do people defend this shit seriously? Like, what the fucking hell? Oh, but we're not done.
You've done it. How does it feel? Power. I need more power.
Fucking God. Virgil kills his evil self, which I guess means he's a good guy. Oh, no, wait, never mind, he explodes. Whatever. Virgil goes through the first level of the DLC again, and now he has the doppelganger ability, which... Wait a minute, hold on. The DLC starts off following Mission 20, where Virgil has the doppelganger ability. But we don't unlock the doppelganger until after killing the other Virgil? What the fuck? Virgil wakes up and he fucks off with his demon army to go get McDonald's chicken nuggets. The end. What a fucking ride. This reboot had so much fucking potential to establish new iterations of these characters that grew in meaningful ways that, while having parallels to their original versions, would have stood out as unique takes on the characters. Imagine having the original reveal trailer Dante growing to become more optimistic and stylish as he fights alongside his brother against the demons that tortured him. Virgil could simultaneously grow an inferiority complex, that's actually explored in the base game, as Dante becomes more and more capable. Perhaps the turning point would have been Dante saving Virgil or doing something Virgil failed to himself, adding to that inferiority complex in a way that pushes Virgil to seek power despite the repercussions. The ultimate turning point would have been Virgil taking the perfect opportunity to outdo his brother, but at great cost to Dante, at which point the conflict between the brothers reaches its breaking point, leading to their subsequent fighting. It would have been a tragic turn of events within the canon of this game, despite us knowing in the meta that Virgil would end up the villain, similarly to Doc Ock in Insomniac Spider-Man. Or perhaps Mundus, being their uncle, could have played on Virgil's inferiority and desire for power, turning the two against each other in a much more interesting way than the original Mundus managed to in the first Devil May Cry. What if Virgil wanted to use Mundus' child as a bargaining chip to see the return of Sparta, rather than Kat, whom Dante would have wanted to save because he cares about her? Those would be pretty interesting ways of establishing a conflict between the two brothers, while also drawing parallels between the ways they value humanity and their demonic heritage. What if we actually came to understand her relationship with Virgil by her expositing about it to Dante, occasionally referencing that he does have something of a god complex and might not be in this for the good of mankind? Virgil might have actually meant well, but upon hearing this, would then grow to care less for Kat, now seeing her as a traitor despite her having been saved by him so many years ago. This could help set up the bargaining scene, meaningfully contributing to both the brothers' perspectives as well as setting up Kat as a more sympathetic character. This is not an impossible story to tell, but Jesus Christ, somewhere along the way, Ninja Theory seems to have just stopped caring about giving fans a meaningful rendition of the series we love, instead opting to be as spiteful and at some points intentionally rotten and sour as possible. And if it seems like I'm being hard on Ninja Theory and giving them a bad faith interpretation, I'll simply refer you to everything Tameem said prior to this game's release. How am I not supposed to expect ill intent at that point? Hell, we've seen this exact thing recently from Disney and plenty of other studios with the condescending way they talk down to their very consumers that they're supposed to be trying to appeal to. I guess Ninja Theory really are cool after all. I mean, they were treating fans like shit before it was trending. Here's some advice for anyone looking to follow up on an established IP. Don't be a fucking asshole to your own fans, especially if your product is already complete and utter shit. It makes you look like a complete asshole, and it makes it impossible to interpret anything regarding your product in good faith. DmC's story is already fucking abysmal, but it becomes so much more sour knowing the situation and the attitude that the creative director had when making it. Who even knows what other members of the studio were thinking during the creation of this game? Now, this might come as a shock after having watched this, but I actually want to see a sequel to this game. I know, crazy, right? I think having 2 different iterations of a long-running franchise is a cool idea, if anything, because it does a great job at accentuating the positives and the negatives of the franchise as a whole. And I think a sequel done in good spirits by a studio that genuinely loves the franchise and wants to turn this spin-off into something special could be really good. I think there's a lot you could take from this game and make something good out of. That's not to say I think this game has a fair amount of positives, because it really doesn't, but there are nuggets of ideas that could be expanded upon or given an interesting twist that could make for a worthwhile sequel. Like I said in my Last of Us 2 video, Devil May Cry 2 is a fucking awful game, but Devil May Cry 3 is one of the best games ever made. DmC Devil May Cry is insultingly bad. Maybe the sequel will be better. So alright, you might be wondering at this point, which is worse? Devil May Cry 2 or DmC Devil May Cry? Well, let me put it to you this way. At least Devil May Cry 2 has 2 characters that play well. And both of them are women, so get fucked.